the interview that I did with young Pharoah a few weeks back has kind of come back to haunt me in a way, in the midst of everything that he is currently going through with his children's mother, one of his children's mother, Golden Beauty. Now, before I even get started on this, I do want to say that I have no regrets about doing the interview with young Pharoah. At the time of the interview, I had no idea, no clue what was going on in his personal life, nor should I have known. That's their business. My focal point was purely to interview him about his thoughts, his interests, ideals, and goals with regard to politics, his music, his life outside of his family. He and his daughter's mom had been separated. I did not know that they were going through a lot of drama and chaos on the back end. And I purposely did not ask any personal questions about his family life. I didn't want to really dig deep into that topic or even go there.
Reason because I wanted to get my stuff. Who's battling anything? So what are you talking about? Stop telling this little white girl my business. Because the police are coming. That's why. Okay, no, because I called them. So what are you talking about? And I bet you didn't call and tell them how you fucking just dragged me, how you just kicked me in my head, how you just slapped me, how you just punched me, and everything the fuck else.
Personally, at the time, I felt that it was none of my business. So, number one, I have absolutely no regrets about the interview. If you have a problem with the fact that I did interview him, fuck you. I have had a lot of people send me clips. I know that there are people out there that have thrown shade at me because of the interview that I did with young Pharoah and his thoughts on a number of topics, namely the LGBT community, black women in general, the black community perhaps. And let me just say this, one of the makings of a good interviewer is someone who is able to objectively speak with a person whose ideals do not align with their own. So although there was a lot that was said in the interview that I didn't agree with, from my soul, from my heart, from the core of my being, I still held it together and I understood the assignment and got it the fuck done. So any shade that was thrown at me, I'm throwing it right back at you. Fuck you. If you have a problem with anything that I have said or done, I don't give a fuck. I don't. I really don't. With that said, I just want to speak very briefly, and maybe not. I might, you know what, fuck it. I have a tendency to be long-winded, so I probably won't be speaking briefly on this. Let me just express my thoughts. So, as a woman, I will say this. I've always tried to be a champion of women most of my life. There's a lot that you guys don't know about me because I choose to be fairly private when it comes to my personal life. But there is one thing that I'm just going to say, because in my personal life, I'm gay as fuck. Okay? I've actually never been with a man, and that includes sexually. I've never slept with a man or anything like that. I've never been in a relationship with a man. I have only been with women all of my life. And so I don't hold the same mindsets as most women do when it comes to men. I see what I see. I see my friends, my family members, my associates be in relationships with men. Sometimes they're great relationships, wonderful relationships, and sometimes they're really bad and very toxic. So I see things objectively, but I also see both sides. I always try to see both sides because I know in my experience in being with women that women can be very toxic as well. I know that there's this term that has gained a lot of popularity over the past few years. It's called narcissism. I believe the good doctor, Sam Vaknin, has been a great champion of helping people to understand what narcissism and what narcissists are really like, what it means, the core and roots of those disorders and disabilities, and how they affect and impact people's lives. And so we're learning a lot from people like him. There's been a outpouring of narcissistic coaches, even on platforms such as YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, etc. Over the years, there are a lot of people that tend to speak on narcissism because they believe that they have been involved with narcissists in the past, in their previous relationships. They might even have narcissistic partners or ex-partners, people that they have intimately been with, parents, friends, lovers, associates, colleagues. I'm pretty sure in my line of work, I work in corporate America, I used to always joke to some of my colleagues that, psychopaths and sociopaths come in all different type of packages. And I believe that a lot of white-collar sociopaths exist. They tend to create chaos in corporate settings, and they tend to get away with it because it's a controlled chaos. It's always so interesting to me when I see people, especially people who are untreated by qualified doctors and qualified members of society who have obtained the training and everything needed to be able to properly diagnose people, diagnose each other as narcissists. I think one of the most interesting aspects of a platform like YouTube is that we get to see people create content and express themselves in different unique ways. But I think one of the most unique sectors on YouTube is the sector of coaches, narcissism awareness, and also people who have been in relationships with narcissists in the past or have parents that were narcissists in their opinion. They are most likely undiagnosed, but I guess, Google makes everybody an expert these days. Diagnose each other, diagnose other people. So in my opinion, and I work in the business world, but my university degree has nothing to do with what I actually do for my career. However, we did touch on a lot of disorders during the course of my studies, and even I kind of didn't understand the depth at which narcissism exists in society. And I think that's having the lid blown off the top. We are seeing a lot of those behaviors portray themselves at front stage and center. We're seeing people being exposed, and even people expose themselves as to who they truly are. Now, because a person is toxic does not automatically make them a narcissist. Okay? That's number one. Number two, we should be very careful about labeling people as such without medical training. And that's just on period, It's like people labeling themselves spiritual gurus when they're more like dusty doo-doos, They wouldn't know spirituality if it knocked them upside the head. But here we are. We're at a place where we're just labeling people things just based on what we think they are, or the experiences that we've had. And I think that's kind of a tricky territory to be in. But that's neither here nor there. My point in all of this is to say that I remember talking to somebody once and saying something to the effect of, narcissists' lives matter. This was actually after I called them out as a narcissist himself. Now, I say that to say this. There are millions, in my opinion, millions of narcissists in this world. There are different layers and levels of narcissism as well. There are people who are able to covertly operate and function as normal members of society when deep down and on the surface, they are narcissists. Whether or not young Pharoah is a narcissist, I think that's beside the point, because a lot of narcissists are able to function in society. They are able to be successful in society through whatever means they choose to use. Calling someone out as something that you think that they are, or maybe they are, could be that they are. How is that actually changing their behaviors? Call out the behaviors. How about that? Let's focus on the behaviors. So what I see here is I see that oftentimes when it comes to toxic and chaotic relationships, especially when children are involved, we tend to kind of blame everything that's going wrong in that relationship on the fact that that person is a narcissist, or we believe that they are a narcissist. In reality, we need to call out the behaviors, because I don't think all narcissists are even made equally. But ultimately, I think we need to think about toxicity as a whole. And most narcissists are toxic people. They're chaotic. But then again, there are just as many non-narcissists that are just as toxic and just as chaotic as narcissists are. So this is why it's important that we focus on the behaviors, we focus on those things that we see visibly that can be changed. Because if a person is a narcissist, then we all know, thanks to Google research and medical research that we're able to read online, that you can't change being a narc. A narc is a narc is a narc. Okay? Narcs can be made, but their behavior can be controlled. But once you're a narc, you're always going to be one. And those traits and those behaviors, they never go away. And that's the unfortunate thing about narcissism. So it is good to be aware and to understand what you're dealing with, but also understand that the behavior, and that's why in psychology, behavioral therapy is very important. It's a very important aspect of counseling and therapy as it relates to certain disorders, personality disorders, is something that is pushed. It's because you might not be able to take away the disorder, but you can help the patient change the behaviors that really highlight the issues. Unfortunately, in this situation, a lot of Black women and just women in general find themselves in these type of predicaments. Number one, relying and depending solely on someone else for support, be it financial, be it emotional, spiritual support. The number one thing is when you are relying on someone for everything in your life, you're depending on someone outside of yourself. You have already put yourself in a precarious situation, in a difficult spot. Number one, you need to have your own. No matter if you are in a relationship with someone or not, even when you're married and that person is taking care of everything, that doesn't mean that you can also take care of yourself and have your own. You need your own. That's one of the problems that I see in the Black quote-unquote conscious community is this push for women to rely on her man, her king for everything. That's rubbish. That's bullshit. Now, if your king wants to provide for you and to make sure that you want for nothing, allow him to do that. On the flip side, you need to also make sure that you are providing for yourself. And in the case that things blow up, that you are able to depend on yourself. Period. Get your own bank account. Get your credit in order. And if you don't understand credit, do your research. You know, we have a lot of people out here researching narcissism. Research how to fix your credit. Make sure that you're paying your taxes. Make sure that you're getting those tax breaks that you might be entitled to. And if you have children, then this advice is even more important for you. Go get you some education. You know, we have this ridiculous kind of dark spot in the community where, oh, it's uncool now to get an education because you're getting the white man's education. Well, guess the fuck what? Maybe if you had that white man education, you would have your own to fall back on. You would have your own car, you'd have your own house, you would have your own money. So if you don't want to go that route, get yourself a trade, learn a skill. Be able to provide for yourself in some capacity, just in case. This is the truth that women really need to hear. And this is women of all races. This is not just for black women, because even though I might report on a cult that's within the black community and might have, you know, their mindset of, you know, the white man this and the white man that, that's all bullshit. At the end of the day, people from all races are going through the same shit. On a relationship level, on a soul level, on a spiritual level, we're all dealing with similar shit. There are layers to what we deal with as the black community. This is worldwide. But then again, outside of America, you're going to see very, very different circumstances as it relates to the black man. I mean, for instance, you go to Africa and things are completely flipped on the reverse. But then again, you also get to see that, you know, treachery and unrighteousness and a lack of spirituality impacts communities as a whole everywhere you go. We see what's going on in Africa. We see what's going on in Haiti. And I know I'm all over the place, so please forgive me. I'm just going off the top, and you're just going to have to deal with it since so many people want to know what I think and what are my thoughts on this, that, and the other. My thoughts are multifaceted, and they're not focused on just this one young couple that is going through a very dark period in their lives right now. We've all been there, and that's the truth of the matter. But we all haven't been there publicly. We all haven't been put our lives and our issues out there publicly. And that's the major difference. There are a lot of fucked up people in this world that have the nerve to get online and give advice and try to expose people when they are fucked up themselves. Golden Beauty is young. Young Pharoah is young. And these young people have a lot to learn. They're making a lot of mistakes, and ultimately they're going to have to deal with it. Not else, they're going to have to deal with it. They have children together, and so depending on how things go, they're going to be in each other's lives in some capacity. So all of this that we're putting out, you know, years from now, they're going to look back on this, and who knows what they're going to think, where they're going to be at this place in time. But ultimately, self-accountability is key, and we all have to be accountable for the decisions that we make, for the things that we do, and for where we are in life. Being independent and dependent is key, because there's nothing wrong with depending on your man or your woman, but you need to be accountable for that dependency. It is not the other person's fault that you're dependent on them. Take accountability for the role that you played in that. You have to be willing to give yourself more, to give yourself what you deserve out of a relationship. And that's the bottom line. The toxicity is on both sides. That's my thought. Putting yourself in precarious situations for the sake of your children is not going to help your cause. It's not. And people do not just display toxic behavior or narcissistic behavior out of the blue. Especially when you've been with someone for that long. So you know